George Walker Bush was born on July 6, 1946, to George H.W. and Barbara Bush in New Haven, Connecticut. He was the oldest of 4 siblings. He had a younger sister that died of leukemia at the age of 3. He was raised in Midland and Houston, Texas. His father, George H.W. Bush, was the United States President from 1989 to 1993. He was an all-around good athlete and fair student. He even was a troublemaker from time to time. He graduated from a boarding school in Massachusetts with not such a great academic record. In his time there, he played baseball and was also the head cheerleader, which was very surprising to me. Through his family's powerful connections, he got accepted into Yale University. He was popular in college, and grades were not among his top priorities. He enjoyed football in his fraternity, Delta Kappa Epsilon. After graduating from Yale, he moved back to Houston and became a member of the Texas Air National Guard. Eventually, George decided to go back to college, so he entered Harvard's business school. He tried his hand in the oil company, but was not successful, so he decided to get into politics. He suddenly announced that he was going to run for a seat in the U.S. Congress. He campaigned as a conservative Republican, but lost the election. Around that same time, he met Laura, whom he married 3 months after meeting. In 1981, they welcomed twin girls, Barbara and Jenna. Bush went back to the oil company, but didn't stay there long. In 1988, he helped his father campaign for president. After his father won the election, Bush and a group of investors bought the baseball team, the Texas Rangers. They sold them when the baseball team became very successful. George later used that money to campaign for president. In 1992, Bush decided to run for governor of Texas. His campaign focused on welfare and tort reform, crime reduction, and education improvement. Bush won the election with 53% of the vote and became the first child of a U.S. president to be elected as state governor. In 1998, Bush became the first Texas governor to be elected to consecutive 4-year terms. Throughout his term as governor, it posed him as a potential future presidential candidate. Within a year, he decided to run for the 2000 presidential election as a Republican. There was a problem with the votes, and they had to be recounted. After more than a month of recounts and legal maneuvering, the U.S. Supreme Court decided the election, giving George Bush the victory over Gore. Bush began his presidency with approval ratings near 50%. After the September 11 attacks, he gained approval of 90% and maintained that for the 4 months after the attacks. It remained over 50% during most of his first term, but then fell as low as 19% during his second term. Also, while George was president, there were several events that brought tragedy to the United States. On September 11, 2001, the 2 World Trade Center towers got hit by hijacked aircrafts. Bush had to react and sent soldiers to Iraq to fight in the war on terrorism. I believe Bush was a brave man to take on what he did. Evidently, the rest of the U.S. thought so too, because he was re-elected for a second term in 2004. There were several issues that hurt from the war. The United States went into a recession, and unemployment rates were higher than they had been in several years. There was also Hurricane Katrina that hit the Gulf Coast and wiped out most of New Orleans. In 2009, an end came to George Bush's role as president, and Obama became president. After Bush's presidency, he and his family moved back to their home state of Texas. After moving back, he kept a relatively low profile. He did make a few speeches and some public appearances. After Osama bin Laden was killed, the U.S. soldiers, Bush and Obama, came together at the site of the World Trade Centers and gave a memorial. George Bush was a great president and did a lot for our country. The United States should be proud to have had him as our 43rd president.